everyone, this is Ellie Mae with Artesprix, and welcome to the Artesprix YouTube channel where we share tutorials and project ideas that are created with the Artesprix Sublimation products. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing how you can take the door hanger, it's the Artesprix door hanger, that is their sublimation blank, and we're going to just create a project with that using a combination of the Artesprix sublimation markers. This is the bold colors. I do have the markers upright, and you want to keep those upright for about 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes or so, depending on when the last time you used them was, so that the ink can start to flow down to the tip of the pen. So I have those sitting here. I am also going to be using the Artesprix stamp ink refills for some watercolor effect on that as well, and to give it a little bit different shading for some colors. So we are going to be taking a look at that. I am going to be using some mixed media paper, but you can also use copy paper when you're working with the Artesprix sublimation products, which include the markers, sublimation paints, sublimation ink pads, and the sublimation ink refills. You're also going to want the Artesprix heat tape. This is specialized heat tape for the high temperatures that are needed for sublimation. We are going to be pressing our blank for 90 seconds with a heat source that is heated to 400 degrees. The most important part of this process is using the Artesprix protective paper. This is going to protect your heat platens on the top and on the bottom of your heat source so that sublimation ink does not get on them. If you have sublimation ink that escapes from around your blank and it gets on your platen, that could transfer to future projects. I also have just a palette here so I can mix some colors or use the inks, and then some water for cleaning my brush. A pencil is great to have for tracing your template, or I'm also going to be using it as a sketch. Pencil does not transfer to your blank, so you want to make sure to use pencil and not any other form of media such as a marker or pen that could transfer to your blank, as well as scissors. And I also have some heat safe gloves here because it's going to be extremely hot when it comes off the press. I also have over here underneath my paper my Artesprix protective mat. This is one of my favorite things, and I use it for many projects because it is heat safe and it keeps my workspace from getting damaged by the high heat of the products when I pull them off the press. I also just have a silicone mat under here to protect my workspace. You can clean up any of the sublimation products from Artesprix with a little bit of water. So if you do get those on your workspace, you can clean that up very easily. You do want to make sure to be careful with your clothing. So an apron is always a good idea if you're messy like I am when I am painting. So let's go ahead and we'll get started with this Artesprix door hanger project. I did grab a couple other sizes of paintbrushes just so I can hopefully put the idea that's in my head down onto the paper. I'm going to start by opening the sublimation blank. I always keep mine in the protective cover or the wrapping until I'm ready to use it, because you do not want it to get dust or debris on it prior to use. That can affect how your sublimation print turns out. The dirt, dust, debris, or the oils off your hands or other products could affect the outcome of your design. So I'm just going to take a sheet of this protective paper, and I'm going to decide which side I want. It is double-sided, so you could do both sides. I'm going to show one side here. I would recommend pressing each side separately and letting this blank cool between presses. But I'm going to take this, it does not fit this direction, so I'm simply going to take this, and I am going to decide which side. You do want to keep in mind that when you do your sublimation, everything is going to be mirrored. So what is on your mixed media or copy paper is then going to be mirrored onto the blank. So this would be on this side, so it would show on the door this way. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trace around this, and it's going to give me an idea of where my design can go and where to fill this with color. So there I have my blank. Again, pencil does not transfer to your surface. I'm also going to grab a sheet of copy paper. I'm going to be doing some hand lettering in my design, just a few simple letters, but when you like I said, when you do sublimation, it needs to be mirrored. So your text needs to be mirrored. So I'm going to do a little trick with that. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring in a background color. So I'm going to start with yellow, and I'm going to use a little bit of the color from the Artesprix stamped ink refills. And you want to keep in mind, when you see the color on the paper, it is going to be lighter than what the actual color will turn out like in the end. Because sublimation inks, the colors do not show up accurately until it is heat pressed. So I'm just going to start by doing some brush strokes and give this a unique look. Looks like I may need some more color. You can always add more color in. If you want a particular shade, you would want to start with as much as you think you'll need, maybe a little bit more in the beginning, because if you're mixing colors especially, it's often hard to get that same shade back. You do not want to oversaturate your paper, and you do want to let your print dry completely before you press it. You want to have that moisture out. So this is going to give us a little bit different look. I love being able to do this with a brush, in that you are going to get some brush strokes, but you're going to get some variations in the color. So it's not just a solid color. So it can be very, very good for different projects. Okay. So we have that. I'm going to give this just a little bit of time to dry. If I were to start with my pencil on this paper that is a little bit saturated, it's just going to tear that paper. So we want to let this dry completely. Now, while this dries, I'm just going to set this off to the side a little bit. And I can't see through this, so I wouldn't be able to necessarily trace the opposite of my text from the back side. So I'm going to try a little bit of a trick here. I'm simply going to do a hand lettering, and it doesn't have to be anything fancy. We'll see how this looks. I may just go with a simple line, so I can do 2 here. And what I'm going to do is I am going to use this. Like I said, you have to mirror the text. So it's really difficult for me to mirror without seeing it. So if I do this really dark, and I'm doing 2 options for myself, you could use a ruler if you wanted. And then I have a little bit of time since it's still drying. I might have to do this a little bit darker. Once I have that, I can kind of take this and give myself an idea and use this as a visual template. I won't be able to trace it, but at least I will draw the letters correctly, hopefully. When you're doing it backwards, it just helps me to visualize it. And like if I did this text here that has sort of a border, then it would be dimensional on which way the borders go. What I mean by that is not only is the direction of the text different, but how I have the borders here on my outline text. There's a lot of times I don't really know for sure either if something's going to work or what it's going to look like when I do it. So I'm not sure which one I'll choose. Once my design is done drying, then I guess that's when I have to make the choice. Okay, now that this is dry and I've tossed around a couple more ideas, I have these sublimation markers They are the bold colors and they are the chisel tip. So I think this is going to work out really well for doing a design like this, except I just need to draw like a straight line. You can do this with a cutting machine that can sketch with these pens, anything you want to do, or you can hand letter it. So remember that it is going to be mirrored. So when I flip this, I'm going to start over here. So then it'll be on this side when I press it. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to use it on a scrap piece of paper just to make sure the ink is flowing. And then I'll use this as my guide so that I can draw backwards. So I'm just going to, and I don't need to, you can fill the whole thing. I'm going to add some more details to this. So I'm just going to start, what I might do is start at the bottom. Yeah, I'll start at the bottom just so that and you can hold this. It is a chisel tip. So you could do this like it is a calligraphy pen, which would be at a 45-degree angle. And then just make your design. It kind of goes a little bit, but it's handmade, so that's pretty good. It gives it a unique look. It is not manufactured, it is not perfect, and it is something designed by me. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my pencil. I'm going to do a little bit of sketching. I'm going to draw some leaves on this, and you could design and do whatever you would like on this. So I'm going to fill this, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how I'm going to color those in. Now, once you have your leaf pattern, I am going to take a couple different colors here. So I have a brown that I could use, and I'm going to add some water to this. That might be a little bit too much brown. I used yellow on the background, so I have some orange. Again, the colors that you see on the actual paper will be a little bit different than the final colors because it's going to brighten up when we press it. So I have two little small paintbrushes here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some water and I'm actually going to add quite a bit of water in here. So I'm going to use this brush and just add a bunch of water in there to give it a watercolor effect. You can use it full strength if you'd like, or, so here's the brown. And that seems a little bit dark, so I'm just going to take some of this color and I could put it here. That's not too bad. Let's add just a little bit more water. That's going to be too light. There we go. Gives it just a little bit of some dimension. So let's color in these. And it's pencil. It's not going to transfer. But you can use it as your guide. So a brown there. And it looks like I have way too much ink. But I will just take another piece. This is going to be a pretty dark leaf. I'll just take another piece of paper and reuse those. And then save that for a future project. So here is, can't remember, I think this was the red. And by applying it with a paintbrush, you can get some dimension to that. Thicker areas. And then I'm going to come back in and I'm going to outline the leaves with the markers here. So I have the yellow. So these bold markers are going to help to give me more of the fall colors too. So we'll speed up the video while I get this finished coloring, and then we'll come back with the markers. And then I can take this chisel tip and use just the tip of it and come in and outline these. And then we'll go ahead and let this dry, and you can clean up your inks, or you can grab another sheet of paper. Oh, look at that. My my ink or my pencil is shown on the silicone mat. That's easily to clean up. So what I can do is I can take my broad brush here, and I just like to use up any excess, and I'll just fill the page, and then I can use this for future projects with the Artesprix or with Sublimation blanks. And I just keep a stack of those that I could grab and use, but then it's just some paper, and I'm using up all the inks, and I'm not wasting anything. So I can, with the amount of ink that I brought in here, I might be able to get a couple sheets out of this. And you can mix the colors up, or you can make different sheets with them. So we'll just go through and finish this up while my page dries. Now, once the page is dry, we can go ahead and set this up for our pressing. I'm going to take this and I'm going to line it up and then attach it with some of the Artesprix heat tape that I have here on a tape dispenser. So I'm just going to line this up, and since it's with pencil, if you want to change where it lines up, you can still do that. And then I'm just going to secure this completely flat, and you do want to make sure that your tape sticks to this side of the blank. If for some reason your tape would stick to the other side or get stuck up underneath, it's going to act as a masking, and I have a demonstration. So if you have a slip up and your tape gets in underneath, then this could happen, and your sublimation ink is not going to transfer to your blank. So you do want to make sure that you have this secure and that nothing slips prior to pressing, which is what happened to me in the first video. So I'm just going to make sure this is secured to the page, and then I'm going to take my protective paper, and I want to make sure to cover the entire press that I am using and all of the surface of my page printout. So make sure you have enough space. I'm going to go ahead and do a sublimation sandwich and just cut 2 sheets that are large enough. And then I'm going to place 1 sheet on the bottom of my heat source. I'm going to take my design, I'm going to flip this over so the blank is on the bottom, the print is on the top next to my heat source. I'm going to place it on the protective paper on my heat source, and then add another layer of protective paper, making sure that my entire surface is protected. I'm going to close the press, and we're going to come back in 90 seconds at 400 degrees. I'm going to grab some heat-safe gloves and my Artesprix protective pad and protect my surface. Once it's ready, I'm going to carefully lift up on the handle and just kind of let it settle there. No jerky movements. And then carefully remove this onto the Artesprix protective mat that's going to protect my workspace from this high heat. Now you can also give it a few seconds to settle out. You do want to check your protective paper. If there is any ink that you see or even the hint of ink, you do not want to reuse this. You're going to want to throw this away, or it could transfer to your future projects. As you can see, some of the ink does come through. When I lift this up, you're also going to be able to see that ink on the other side. So what I'm going to do is I am going to flip this over, and you can see that ink, that excess ink has transferred onto the protective paper. So you really don't want to use this for future projects or it could transfer. And then we can take a look at the reveal. So I'm just going to carefully, remember this is going to be very, very hot. And you do not want to use the protective tape either if it has ink on it as well. You don't want to reuse that because that could also transfer to your blank. So we'll give this a look. It gives it a little bit of a watercolor look. I could have probably gone over the fall a little bit better with the markers and given it a darker look, but it gives you an idea of what this could look at. If I were to redo this, I would go ahead. You can see this marker is really dark, so I'd probably go over these a little bit more. And then I would probably water down the yellow a little bit more. But it is a unique way that you can make custom projects with the Artesprix markers. You could have a different door hanger for your decor in your house, for birthdays, for keep out, do not disturb, or each seasonal that could fit in with your decor as well. So let us know in the comments below what you would create with the door hangers, and make sure to check the links in the video description for additional information and ideas on the Artesprix website. Thanks for joining us and have a great day.